Imagine someone offers you 10% a year, every year, no bad months, no surprises, just up. You're not stupid, so you check. The returns are real. People are getting paid. Your neighbor's been in for 3 years. He just bought a boat, so you invest. That's the exact moment you lose everything. Not because you were greedy, because the careful, smart version of you would do the same thing. Banks did it. Pension funds did it. People who manage money for a living did it, and lost billions. This is how a Ponzi scheme actually works, and why the people who fall for it are usually the careful ones. Let's get one thing straight, because almost everyone gets it wrong. A Ponzi scheme and a pyramid scheme are not the same thing. A pyramid needs you to recruit. You pay in, then you drag in 2 friends. They drag in 2 more. Your profit is their money. A Ponzi is cleaner. There's one guy in the middle. You hand him your money. He hands you returns. You never recruit anyone. You don't even know there's a scheme. But under the hood, they run on the exact same engine. They pay the past with the future. Every dollar you earn isn't earned. It's taken from the next person who walks in the door. There's no investment. There's no business. There's a bucket. Money comes in one side, a little goes back out the other, and the man in the middle keeps the difference. It works perfectly, as long as more money keeps coming in than going out. Now here's the part nobody tells you. This isn't a modern internet scam. The first famous one ran in 1920. A guy named Charles Ponzi. Boston, 1920. Ponzi had a story that actually made sense. International postal reply coupons. Buy them cheap in one country, redeem them for more in another. Real arbitrage. Legal. Clever. He promised investors 50%, not a year, in 45 days. Double your money in 3 months. And for a while, it paid. Exactly on time. So word spread. Of course it did. Your friend just turned $1,000 into $1,500 in 6 weeks. You'd tell everyone too. At his peak, Ponzi was taking in around $250,000 a day. In 1920 money, that's millions today, every single day. But he never actually bought the coupons. The math didn't even work at scale. To cover what he'd promised, he'd have needed more coupons than existed on Earth. He was just paying old investors with new investors' cash. Borrowed time. Borrowed money. It held up for about 8 months. Then a newspaper asked one simple question. Where is the actual money? And the whole thing fell over in days. Around 40,000 people. About $20 million. Gone. And here's the lesson everyone took from it. Only an idiot falls for that. Wrong. Watch what happens when the man in the middle is the most respected guy on Wall Street. Bernie Madoff wasn't a street hustler. He was a former chairman of the Nasdaq stock exchange. The Nasdaq. He helped build the modern market. When Bernie said, "I'll manage your money," the smartest people in finance lined up. Not your neighbor. Banks, hedge funds, charities, universities, people whose entire job is spotting fraud. And what did Bernie promise? Nothing crazy. No 50% in 45 days. Just steady. Around 10 to 12% a year. Quietly. Reliably. In good years and bad years. The line just went up. That right there was the tell. And almost nobody caught it. Because real markets don't move in a straight line. Real returns wobble. They have terrible years. A graph that only goes up isn't a strategy. It's a lie with good handwriting. Give it a name. The consistency trap. The thing that made people trust Bernie, he never has a bad year, was the exact thing that should have terrified them. He ran it for decades. Some say since the 80s. The fake account statements eventually showed about $65 billion that didn't exist. And it didn't collapse because someone got clever. It collapsed because of 2008. When the financial crisis hit, everyone wanted their money back at once. The new money stopped coming in, and the bucket was empty. That's the secret weakness of every single one of these. They don't die when they're exposed. They die when people stop depositing. Madoff got 150 years. But notice, the smartest money on the planet handed him billions. So when you think I'd never fall for it, they thought that too. Now the strangest one, because this is where it gets human. Russia, 1994. A company called MMM, run by a man named Sergei Mavrodi. MMM didn't promise 10%. It promised insane numbers. Hundreds of percent. It printed its own paper tickets with Mavrodi's face on them, like a private currency. Millions of people poured in. Not hundreds, millions. In a country that had just watched its savings vaporize, looked like the only way up. And then it collapsed, exactly the way they all do. But here's the part that breaks your brain. People defended him. Crowds protested for his release. They blamed the government for shutting it down, not Mavrodi for taking their money. And Mavrodi? He came back. Again and again. Later versions where he literally said out loud, "This is a pyramid. You will probably lose your money." And people still joined. Read that twice. He told them it was a scam. They invested anyway. Why? Because by then, they weren't investing in a business. They were betting they'd get out before the music stopped. And that's the whole thing, isn't it? That's musical chairs with money. The music is the new investors walking in. Everyone's dancing. Everyone's sure they'll grab a chair in time. Nobody plans to be standing when it stops. Most people are. So why is it guaranteed? Not risky. Guaranteed. Take a pyramid where each person brings in 10. One person becomes 10. 10 become 100. 100 become 1,000. By the 11th layer, the scheme needs more than 10 billion people, more than are alive on Earth. It runs out of humans. Always. It's not a risk, it's arithmetic. And here's the cruel part. The newest layer is always the biggest. The largest group of people who ever joined is, by design, the one that can never be paid. Call it the last layer. In a scheme like this, the vast majority of everyone who ever joined is sitting in the layer that loses. Not because they were late, because someone has to be the floor. Okay, so you don't end up on the floor. Real tools, not vibes. 1. The returns are too smooth, consistent, guaranteed, no bad months. Real investments have bad months. Be suspicious of anything that doesn't. 2. You can't see where the money comes from. It's a complex strategy. If they can't explain how the profit is actually made, the profit is you. 3. They push you to reinvest, not withdraw. And when you try to pull money out, it's suddenly complicated. 4. The pitch leans on who else is in. Your friend's in. Your boss is in. That's not proof. That's the recruitment. A real investment pays you from something real. A business, an asset, a market. A Ponzi pays you from the next person. If you can't tell which one funds your check, assume it's the second. Now go back to the start. Someone offers you 10% a year. Every year. The neighbor with the boat. You know what the boat was bought with now. The next guy's deposit. And the guy after him. The music's still playing. Everyone's still dancing. The only question that ever mattered isn't, is this real? It's, how many people are still walking through the door? Because the day that slows down, and it always does, the smartest person in the room loses just as hard as everyone else. You wouldn't fall for it because you're dumb. You'd fall for it because it's built for the careful. If this rewired how you see safe, steady returns, subscribe. We take the money myths you've never questioned and show you how they really work.